We have to start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Well, okay. Anyway, he goes on to The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
What happens when Joe Biden struggles through another awkward appearance while the hosts on The View act like everything's perfectly fine? Things get messy fast. Then Megyn Kelly stepped in and completely tore it apart. She didn't hold back for a second. From Biden's confusing moments to Joy Behar's reactions at the table, nobody escaped the criticism. And trust me, the first person she targeted will definitely surprise you.
I've noticed that Trump can't stop talking about you. He's obsessed with you. As of late April, he had mentioned you and your family and your administration at least 580 times. We're talking shrink land now, because, you know, when you're obsessed with somebody, you have to look in yourself and say, what is going on here? And at his Trump's cabinet meeting last week, your name was invoked 52 times, and he blamed you for the economic mess that his tariffs are causing. Why is he so fixated on you and blaming you for everything?
I beat him.
It seemed like just another normal Tuesday. The coffee was brewing, the cameras were rolling, and over on live TV, Whoopi Goldberg was doing what she does best, defending another chaotic moment. Then came Joe Biden, armed with prepared lines and a few familiar stumbles. Meanwhile, the hosts on The View laughed along and tried to keep the mood light, even as the interview slowly turned into a complete mess right in front of everyone watching.
Here's a little bit more. Speaking of those around him who covered up his infirmity, or at least that's where my mind went. Dr. Jill was there too, and as usual, came to the rescue. Watch SOT 38.
What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, you know, think
this
of
is about the books.
What we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started.
The people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president.
She says none of these people writing the books worked for us. Well, one of the first to have his book hit interviewed Ron Klain, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for almost all of his presidency. And he went on the record saying that Biden thought he was president of NATO. Where was that follow-up, ladies of The View? I must have missed it.
Picture this. Biden walks onto the set looking a little lost, while the hosts on The View break into applause that feels way more rehearsed than genuine. The whole thing was supposed to come across as a warm, friendly TV moment. Instead, it quickly turned awkward, with forced laughs, clunky exchanges, and everyone pretending things were going perfectly fine while the interview slowly drifted off the rails.
He could barely spit it out.
And he threw that one out there too. My goodness.
He and Obama are two peas in a pod on this. And racism, if you didn't vote for her, that's obviously what she thinks too. But the nerve of this guy of all people to come out and say that's why she lost.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal, Megyn. You know they're putting him out there to provide proof of life because a lot of people are wondering. They hadn't seen him in a while. But at some point in every person's life, you go from rehab to palliative care. And he is definitely in the palliative care category right now.
But while the chaos was unfolding on live TV, Megyn Kelly was watching closely, and she clearly wasn't impressed. She came into the conversation swinging hard, tearing apart the interview piece by piece. From the awkward delivery to the forced reactions on set, she treated the whole segment like a complete disaster. By the time she finished her commentary, nothing was left untouched. The hosts, the scripted moments, and even the teleprompter-style setup all got blasted in her takedown.
Oh, they asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this, SOT 36.
When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was against her. And there has been some reporting that you encouraged her.
Because honestly, watching The View handle a Joe Biden interview can feel completely chaotic. The expectations are already pretty low, yet somehow the whole thing still ends up awkward. The forced laughter, the over-the-top agreement, and the soft, carefully prepared questions all make the segment feel more staged than genuine. Instead of a serious conversation, it comes across like everyone is trying way too hard to keep the mood light while avoiding the obvious tension in the room.
Hello?
Did that clear it up for you?
Rivals.
I mean,
Do you have clarity on it now?
That gerbil is having a hard time spinning the wheel. That is about as torturous as I've ever seen.
It was torturous, and on Sunny's part too. There, like
Yes.
she is trying to hand this off to Biden, and hopefully he can take it from there, right? Like okay, she wants to straight face tell us that what the question was, like what sort of wins would you have changed? Like that's an actual question you would ask a person. It doesn't make any logical sense.
She didn't just criticize the segment. She completely broke it down piece by piece. Megyn Kelly came in sharp, confident, and fully prepared to challenge everything she saw. While the host tried to celebrate Biden's appearance like a huge success, Kelly argued that the whole thing felt overly scripted and carefully protected from any real scrutiny. She went after the forced applause, the soft questions, and the constant attempts to smooth over awkward moments. Her commentary was direct and relentless, cutting through what she saw as a performance instead of a serious discussion. And while the show tried to keep everything upbeat and polished, Kelly stood firm, making it clear she wasn't buying any of it.
Yeah. What the hell was he talking about, by the way? He was like, I've never seen such an effective, campaign. What the hell? Like, that first take. I mean, I know that Democrats say, well, it's because the country is sick and racist and all those things. But like, he's pointing the finger basically at the Trump campaign, saying that they had like this. Well, I mean, if you go back to like the ad slate of the messaging matrix that the Trump administration put together in the course of that campaign, it was immigration, it was the horrible economy. I mean, none of these things are gender specific.
Here's what a lot of critics were saying after the interview. Instead of challenging Joe Biden with tough questions, The View kept the conversation extremely safe and comfortable. The hosts laughed along, avoided real pressure, and treated even the simplest answers like major victories. To many viewers, it felt more like a carefully managed appearance than a serious interview. That's exactly where Megyn Kelly stepped in. She went after the entire segment hard, arguing that the show was more focused on protecting Biden than actually questioning him. Kelly mocked the soft tone of the interview, the constant praise from the hosts, and the way awkward moments were brushed aside almost immediately. According to her, the whole thing felt less like journalism and more like a performance designed to keep everything positive no matter what happened on screen. And while the show tried to present the appearance as a success, Kelly made it clear she saw it very differently.
It was so insane the way that she's like beyond effusive of being like, so here's the thing. Because of your record of tremendous successes, dear leader. Like, what? Right. Are you asking him a question?
Like, Joe Biden, tell us your greatest weakness.
And you know what? You know what's so amazing?
You know?
What's so amazing about it, you guys, is that, so here she's like, I am not going to make the same mistake twice. You know, I already Kamala Harris's run for the office. And I am not going to do anything to undermine this guy. So I'm just going to give him the answer in the question. Like, you know, and so she declined to distinguish any of her policies from all the ones that you did so successfully. What's your reaction to that? Right? So she's trying to give him the softball like that. Right. And then he has no idea what she has said.
So what did Megyn Kelly do with all of this? She picked the interview apart piece by piece. She mocked the forced reactions, the overly supportive tone, and the way awkward moments kept getting brushed aside like nothing happened. But what really stood out was how calm and direct she was while doing it. She wasn't yelling or overreacting. She sounded confident, prepared, and completely convinced the segment deserved criticism. Kelly also went beyond just attacking the interview itself. She questioned the entire style of the show, arguing that The View often feels more focused on pushing a shared viewpoint than having tough or balanced conversations. In her eyes, the Biden appearance wasn't journalism at all. It was a carefully controlled moment where difficult questions were avoided and uncomfortable moments were softened for the audience. Her main point was simple. If a political interview avoids real scrutiny and treats every answer like a success story, viewers are eventually going to notice. And according to Kelly, that's exactly what happened here.
Interviewing for a job as a cameraman, but
we are beyond happy to have you here today for a lot of different reasons. But my question is, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm well. The family's well, thank God. Things are moving along, and we're getting squared away, trying to figure out what the most significant and consequential role I can play consistent with what I've done in the past.
And Megyn Kelly didn't stop with Biden. She went after the hosts, too. She mocked the way Whoopi Goldberg nodded along to almost every confusing moment like everything being said was completely normal. Then she turned to Sunny, criticizing the constant attempts to defend every contradiction no matter how awkward things became. Alyssa got pulled into the mix as well, with Megyn joking that she looked like the only person in the room trying to keep the conversation from completely falling apart. According to Kelly, the whole panel felt less like a serious political discussion and more like a group trying very hard to avoid admitting anything was going wrong. She even joked about the set itself, from the dramatic reactions to the over-the-top wardrobe choices and the perfectly staged table setup. By the end of her commentary, Megyn had basically turned the entire interview into one giant example of what she believed was forced television theater instead of honest conversation.
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections, 4 legal notes. We only have 3 of them on camera. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
The setup of the show looked polished and professional, but according to Megyn Kelly, the actual conversation felt completely staged. She seemed to enjoy breaking the whole thing down, mixing sharp criticism with plenty of sarcasm along the way. To her, the interview came across less like real journalism and more like a carefully managed performance where everyone already knew the role they were supposed to play. Megyn also mocked what she saw as the show's habit of rewarding emotion over tough questions or honest debate. She argued that on The View, disagreement rarely feels welcome, and anyone challenging the narrative instantly becomes the problem. By the end of her commentary, she painted the show as an echo chamber where applause matters more than accountability and where loud reactions often replace real discussion.
And then you get this little lecture from those over at The View.
I'm a Christian girl. When something like this happens to you, like this assassination attempt, and you say something like God was watching me, that is a very unchristian thing to say because it's very like, well, God was watching me and not watching them. There's something very disturbing.
I should have pulled the plug on that mic yesterday.
Wow.
I don't know what church she goes to. That is how people of faith talk, and the intimation is never, he was looking out for me, but not those.
According to Megyn Kelly, trying to bring real debate or tough questions to The View is almost impossible. She mocked the panel for turning every conversation into a predictable cycle of outrage, applause, and talking points instead of genuine discussion. To her, the show feels more focused on emotional reactions than serious analysis. What made Megyn's commentary stand out was how direct and controlled it was. She calmly picked apart the interview, the hosts' reactions, and the overall tone of the show without backing off once. In her view, The View has become less about open conversation and more about protecting a shared narrative while shutting down opposing opinions. By the end of her takedown, Megyn's message was clear. The Biden appearance wasn't just awkward television. It was another example of a show she believes values applause and agreement over honesty and accountability.